A woman on a dating app shared a text message exchange with this man named Charles. This man named Charles told her, "You're so negative." Let's look at this text message exchange. All right, so Charles tells her, "You're ferocious." And she says, "Thanks?" with a question mark. And to that, he gives a whole lot more. She just says thanks with a question mark. But look at what he says. He says, "Ha ha. I take it such adjectives are not common in your Facebook dating saga? Well, you're welcome. Do I sense that your experience with dating is usually a bit challenging, given the fact that your profile is not really a set of details about you, but strangely, a series of negatives you are simply looking to avoid? Haha, bad. You're looking for something real, but you use your profile to express a few repellent qualities you want to avoid. Don't you think that's kind of a bit of a buzzkill as far as the first impression? Like maybe it won't attract the realest types of suitors." So here he laughs after he says that. And if you look in the middle of this screenshot, she's already blocked him. But let's look at the rest of the conversation. She says, "My experience on here has been crazy. Funny how men love giving branding advice to women on dating apps when the only thing they've ever risked is a bruised ego." She says, "My series of negatives is called a boundary list. You should try having some. You have no idea what it's like being a woman, and an attractive one at that. But thanks for mansplaining." I am not having a seizure or stroking out as I'm reading this, but he says, "I have many, like women, that live with the negatives. I usually have to be careful with because they tend to be negative." He says, "You don't think I have boundaries because I'm positive? You realize that mansplaining is a sexist phrase. Are you a hypocrite?" And she says, "You're not nearly hot enough to be this confident." And he says, "Why would it matter if I'm a man or a woman? I'm here sitting with my friend Tabitha, and it looks like he wants to continue talking." But at that juncture, she had blocked Charles. She's like, "You are not nearly hot enough to be this confident. I'm going to have to go ahead and block you." And he's like, "See, I'm sitting here with my friend. She's a woman." Okay. And then she said block. Here's the OP explaining what her negatives were. She says the negatives were, "Please don't send me dirty messages." And we know that they do send dirty messages. They send inappropriate things to women. They post inappropriate things on their dating profiles. They really need to learn how to talk to women. Background Middle says, "Wow, what a prick." This person says, "If being incredibly obnoxious and overwhelming was personified in a single dude, good for you for your responses and blocking him, laughing my butt off." And he was incredibly obnoxious and overwhelming within just a couple of screenshots. That's amazing that he fit all of that in. The OP says, "Thanks. I've just been dealing with so many creepy and bizarre messages that I had to put it on my profile." Bob Down says, "They complain that we get all the matches, yet he thinks he can explain how to get better quality of match while being a D. Sure, makes sense." The OP says, "Exactly." Tomahawk Cruz says, "I could feel his soul die a little bit when you said he's nowhere near hot enough to be that confident." This one didn't have too many comments, so I'll go ahead and just stop here. Join the conversation. Let me know what you think of this one. And don't forget to like, comment, and share. I talk a lot about how men are expecting you to be a wife appliance and a girlfriend appliance because they are actively looking for you to serve them. And so in the dating arena, you are supposed to audition to be their servants. That's the reason why they talk so much about cooking and cleaning and all of this, because they want you to audition to give labor to them. Now, this conversation right here from this woman named Chef Amber speaks to that. She is a chef. It is in her name. She does that to make money. Why would she be doing that in the dating realm? So let's look at this so we can have this conversation. Chef Amber says, "I'm the pink replies, Lasai." He didn't reply after that. So she's in pink. Let's look at this. So the man says, "When am I going to taste your cooking?" She says, "When you hire me, LOL." He says, "Damn, here I am thinking you're going to say something sweet, LOL." She says, "How would you answer getting asked to do free labor sweetly?" He says, "Me? I would love to make dinner for you. Nice little romantic night. I forgot you cook as business, but only cook for men that pay you or you don't like enough. And then she says, I don't only cook for men, women hire me too. So she has boundaries and she's like, absolutely not. I am not doing labor, because when you are cooking, it's not just the act of cooking. You have to have money to go to the grocery store. It takes time and energy and gas to go to the grocery store. You have to have a meal in mind. You have to buy the stuff. You have to come home. You got to wash ingredients. You got to chop stuff up. You got to saute things. If she is a chef, she is doing this and she's going to do it with some artistry behind it. This is not something that you're just magically doing. Like, it does not take a lot. It's labor intense. And this man is looking for her to spend her own money, time, and energy cooking for him. And she said no. She has boundaries around that because this is what she does for a living. Now, ask a dude if he's going to do his job, like go to work and do it for free. Ask. They'll say hell no, because they have some sense and then they have some boundaries as well. And I'm glad that women are having these same boundaries, because how dare you? How dare you? She goes on to explain, he was making a first date suggestion. He wasn't trying to learn a recipe. He knows how to cook. He wanted me to cook for him as a first date. He wanted her to cook as a first date. Zarina says, a first date? Oh, nah, bye. Colleen says, people really think that just because we are chefs is 0% labor. Chef Amber says, I like being served too. She wants to go to a restaurant. She does not want to make a first date something where she actually has to work. What's wrong with people? Is 1984 says, he is definitely trying to test your boundaries to see how much you'll put up with. He isn't looking for a partner, but free personal laborer. The lady Isabel says, on a first date? Hell no. Patrice says, for a first date, he is in the wrong. If you guys had been together for a while, cooking for him would have been fine, in my honest opinion. Before you tune Queen Perseus out, listen to this comment. She says, y'all be so prideful, so much so you missed an opportunity to poison a man. That's what happens when you look a gift horse in the mouth. Reading and Buying says, I'm crying. Nito Skadito says, I wish we still had voice notes so you could hear my butt laughing from this comment. Goddamn, I love an elite sense of humor. I like you. I agree with Miss Tastic. She says, I just knew I was going to be mad at this comment. Then I kept reading. Exactly. Only One says, damn girl, you got me at the first half thinking you're one of those PMGs. I don't know what PMGs is. I laugh my butt off when I see poison. Yeah. If a man, especially an entitled one, asks me to cook for him, I'll definitely think about this. Chef Amberly says, why didn't I think of this? Drats. If you're a chef, you better not be doing that. You don't want to get anybody going to social media talking about your cooking and how you got them sick. Blessing Amarie says, but when you ask them when they're going to pay your rent, then all of a sudden you are a gold digger and materialistic. A guy asked me to cook for him. I said, sure, as long as he takes care of me and pays my rent. He said, I had been paying my rent before I met him. And I said, but you have been eating before you met me. Don't piss me off. Chef Amber says, heavy on the you have been eating before you met me. And that's the thing, though. So many of these dudes think that they're going to go to these different women's houses and eat, like eat up their groceries, and not even eat just a little bit, but eat up the meal prep, like the leftovers as well, because they don't want to spend their own money. And they think that I will continue to say this. They are colonizers. They are here to take women's time, energy, and resources because they don't want to do that thing. So yes, they have been eating before they met you. However, are they eating for free? Are they, being parasites off of another woman's labor? Are they acting like the pimpocracies, like these passive pork chops, where the woman is supposed to just go out and bring in the money, do all the cooking and all of that? Are they attaching like that or what? Regardless, women need to know and understand that they have got to pull these parasites off and make them hold their own nuts and say, absolutely not. You're not going to use up my time, energy, and resources. Blessing Omari is talking about all of the comments. These dudes are in here being racist and name calling. She says, that's how you know you've won an argument. I didn't see a lot of the comments. I'm wondering if Chef Amber, if she deleted a bunch of things. But this is the type of conversation that will have men up in arms like, ah! If you say, I don't cook for men. I don't cook for men. I'm not cooking for you. That will have them up in arms. But I didn't see the comments. I wish I did. Breathe with Kay shared a quick screenshot. She says, never heard from him again. So the man says, ha ha, we love a woman who can cook. She says, so do I. Can't wait for us to hire one. And then he does this little broken heart. And like she said, she never heard from him again. Chef Amber says, I mean, I don't see the problem in what you said unless he wanted you to do it like you don't deserve to be catered to. And then she uses the Oprah picture where she's like, AJ Sloan says, do the men in your replies not realize, so when are you going to cook for me, is one of the most common lines they send on dating apps, even to women who aren't chefs. Lazy and unoriginal. And then Chef Amber says, nope, they don't think there's anything wrong with it. And then she uses this picture with Will Ferrell saying, nope, nope. I like the term that Uppity Negress uses. She says, labor diggers think asking for free labor is romantic. They think that you needing to audition to be a servant is romantic. So, labor diggers. We have labor diggers. We have homosexual. We know what a homosexual is, but we need to talk about labor diggers like in the same vein as gold diggers. Labor diggers. We need to talk about that more and more. Oh, that David says, I had a man tell me he was a homosexual and asked if I wanted a live-in man. Sir, please leave before the police have to arrest me. Chef Amber is like, how do you flaunt that proudly? Oh, that David says, I'm still mad. I know I'm reading a lot of these comments. I get it. But I do want us to know and understand it's perfectly reasonable to have boundaries and say no. Nakia says, dude asked me when will I cook for him. I said, I just met you a week ago. Chef Amber says, and they be asking every woman they talk to, trying to get their meal prep settled for the week. Won't get me in the rotation. Molly says, why did I read this as, when am I going to taste your cookie? And then that made Chef Amber laugh. And with that, I will end this conversation. All right, y'all, join the conversation. Let me know, what do you think about labor diggers and these men asking women to cook for them? I know that this is a paradigm shift. This is a new day where so many women are actually having boundaries. And I know that we are not completely there. I do know and understand, but I do love that some women are saying, absolutely not. Get someone else to do it. I'm not going to be in your rotation. Trigger warning. There is coercive sex in here. And if sex is coerced, is not freely given, that means that there's no true consent there. And we need to have these difficult conversations. We need to talk to the younger ladies who might not have their voices yet. We need to talk about these conversations before these women are in these situations so that they can know how to react and respond and see it. Because when you're in the thick of things, your brain might not click as quickly. So even though these conversations can get difficult, we need to have them. So this woman posted in the relationship advice subreddit. The man is 31, she's 30. So it's not like she is a young woman, but still, this type of stuff can happen at any age. She says, my boyfriend will not let me sleep if we haven't had sex before bed. He is keeping her sleep from her. He is controlling her health. Keeping someone from sleeping is a torture technique. This is torture. He is torturing her until she gives in and opens up her legs to him. This is not a healthy situation based on this title alone. But let's look at this very short post. She says, we don't live together, but I'm always exhausted due to life stressors. Even when we're apart, I never get enough or quality sleep. If we do have sex before bed, cuddling means what it normally does, being still and sleeping cuddled up. If we don't and I am exhausted and fall asleep, cuddling means touching me all over and rubbing my butt until I wake up and have sex. And if I don't wake up, he will be still, then go back to touching and rubbing and be still and wash and repeat. Sounds like he's just messing with her. We've had this discussion of, yes, of course I want to have sex sometimes. I am just exhausted many, many times, but it just keeps happening. And we do have sex at least once almost every week. Every time we see each other, which is usually at least once a week, sometimes multiple times. I just don't know what to do. How do we fix this? We don't fix this. He needs to respect your boundaries, but you need to have some assertive boundaries where you speak up for yourself. If he is doing this and you say, I'm exhausted, I don't want to do this right now, that means no. But what he's doing right now, he's like, I'm just going to keep on messing with her until she's so exhausted, she just gives in. That is not consent. That is coercion, in my opinion. You will have to let me know what you think this is. But it sounds like I am going to make sure you are miserable in the morning by just continuing to mess with you until you give in. That is not healthy, in my opinion, but I do want you to weigh in. Frog Woman says, no is a complete sentence. If he can't respect you, then break up. This is not a safe man to be around. He is a coercive creep. Athala says, I'm going to reply to you hoping she will definitely see this. My ex did the same to me. I say no before bed. We cuddle, fall asleep, then at 2 a.m. I get woken up by him rubbing my arm, butt, other parts. I'm half awake. I say, WTF, no, I want to sleep. It's 2 a.m. He always replied with, I thought you were awake, which I clearly wasn't until he woke me up. Saying no always took at least an hour, sometimes two, before he would leave me alone again. So I eventually started giving in because I could go to sleep again 15 minutes later. I've silently cried myself to sleep more than I can count. And then he wondered why my sex drive was slowly going away. If you have to convince someone to have sex, that's assault. Consent should not take persuasions and tricks. She says, edit to add, because holy F, I'm pissed off at this. Please, OP, don't let this go on. It took me years to finally be okay with someone touching my stomach because I always feared he would put his hands down my pants if I let him touch my stomach. It might seem like a small thing, but it really isn't. I didn't realize until later what he was actually doing. He put me in a position where he could take advantage. I wasn't fully awake. He would keep me awake if I said no. He interrupted my sleep if I said no. This is not okay. I still can't have sex late at night. I can't have sex after midnight. And you know what? All other men I've dated since respected this. It's because basic human decency. I still get anxious sometimes when I'm the small spoon. Stuff like this is really damaging. Even though I know that these conversations are difficult, I think it's important to understand that SA, that grape, isn't always some masked man coming out of the alleyway to take advantage. Sometimes it's somebody that you have said yes to in the past, that you have a relationship with, that you're in a current romantic relationship and that you enjoy being in a relationship with. But if you're tired, if you say no for any reason, if you're sick, if you just are not in the mood and say no, and they push and push and push, they are not actively listening to you. They are not respecting you. And you need to know and understand that that is not right. You do not want to get to the point where these people are able to push over and push through your boundaries, because you could end up in a situation like this. Slinky says, I'm so sorry this happened to you and glad he's an ex. I'm going to give another trigger warning because what CJ Runs with Crow says is terrible. She's talking about grape. This whole conversation is challenging. I know this conversation is a difficult one. CJ Runs with Crow says, very much all of this. I experienced the same thing with my ex-husband. Eventually, I woke up in the middle of the night to him graping my sleeping body, which was traumatizing to say the least, and I couldn't feel safe sleeping in that bed again, so I slept on the couch until I could eventually move out of our marital home. OP, please save your sanity. This isn't a safe person that you should want to be around. He sounds like he doesn't have any self-control, and he's in his 30s already. This is stuff he should have learned in his teens. He is already coercing you into intercourse, which is SA. You should be providing enthusiastic consent and not just having intercourse with him to leave you alone or hopefully get some sleep. This isn't a healthy relationship and you deserve so much better. Independent South says, I'm sorry you went through this. I went through something similar with my ex-husband. For 5 years, I let the abuse continue, thinking I was broken and there must be something wrong with me for not wanting to have sex with my partner. Eventually, I hit a breaking point and found the strength to leave. It was not easy, and I walked away a shadow of my former self. It's crazy what this does to you. Years later, I still find it difficult to hold down relationships and feel sexual attraction. OP, get out now. This man does not respect you. This situation had the potential to get a lot worse. This is deep. And I'm saying, I'm speaking on this because we need to know the different variations. Women go through some sick stuff, and they had to put grape on the law books because husbands thought that they should have access to their wife's body at all times, like they owned you. Some of these people really believe that they own your body and they should be able to do what they want with your body whenever they want to do that. I'm going to end it here. Y'all get the point. We need to have these discussions. Making somebody wake up, making sure they can't go to sleep. That is not active and enthusiastic consent. So keep having these conversations. Have the difficult conversations, but make sure that you know and understand that no and boundaries are so important. Having your voice is so important, and being willing to walk away from relationships that are unhealthy. That's so important as well. Join the conversation, like, comment, and share. This sounds like a mess. This was posted in the Neighbors from Hell subreddit. This person says, neighbors' kids keep throwing toys and shoes over our backyard. I began to toss out their stuff. This makes sense to me because why are you throwing your stuff in my backyard? You must not want it. That's what that would seem to me. But let's go ahead and read her post. All right, so she says, this has been happening since this summer. They have tossed toys, a dirty shoe, and other stuff. By the way, my mom has a garden in the backyard, and there was about 2 times that the children's toys would end up in the herbs. I began to toss it out. My mom is more nice and will throw it back to them. 1 or 2 times, it's fine, but after a while, it feels like it's on purpose. I started to throw stuff out after it was the 6th time, I believe. Well, my mom left for work. I saw a dinosaur toy. I scooped it up and threw it in the trash. These kids won't learn their lesson. Their parents are barely outside, so it's difficult to get a hold of them. These neighbors live behind me, so our backyards are close together. There's about 3 to 4 kids, and they all like to scream and sometimes will cry. They play outside the whole day from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. Meanwhile, their parents are inside doing work. You know how I know? Because the dad would use the machine to cut wood, so that's how I know. Others have told me to just toss out the toys and stuff they throw into our backyard because they don't learn their lesson. I'm really tired of it, so this is the only solution I know. I hope their parents also learn and watch their kids when they go outside. Lastly, a few times I saw the mother picking up her kids so he could look into our backyard. It's another case of bad parenting. I completely agree. How are you letting your kids be outside for hours upon hours on end without checking them? And how are they able to throw so much stuff without coming and talking to the parents or something? Like she said, or I believe this is probably a woman. It sounds like bad parenting to me. It sounds like the kids need some supervision. I would do the same thing, but you should let me know. Well, go ahead and let me know what you would do. Somebody is tossing trash into your backyard. No. And they've been doing this for months? Absolutely not. I do not agree with this. I think that it's bad parenting, but I do want to know what you think. Now, she does edit. She must have been getting it in the comments. People being like, oh my God, they're just kids. I do not give a single F. I like this person. Definitely sounds like a woman. She says, I was a kid once and never threw stuff over people's backyards, but then again, I had decent parents. I think it is a parental issue, and I'm not going to blame the kids, but if they do continue this behavior until they're teens, then it's going to be their fault if they can't understand what they're doing. Personal attacks against me will be ignored, blocked, and reported. The fact that I'm being attacked, being called the a-hole, Karen, hell, one person called me Susan. I don't know if this is a Irish or something. It says, who is a schmurderer and a bigot. Oh, that's that lady on Neighbor from Hell on Netflix who took out that black lady because the kids were out there playing. Yeah, that's a mess. She says, some of you have gone too far and are actually terrible with your words. If I was a Karen, I'd have went onto their property and done worse. Why are they attacking her for being upset about these toys? What is she supposed to do if they don't stop this? I don't like that they are attacking and blaming her. Let's look at a few of these comments. Free Gaza Today says, if it was like a volleyball or basketball or tennis ball, then yeah, a few times I toss it back. But like you said, it happened over and over. I might have taken all their stuff in a box with a note saying next time it'll be thrown away and put it at their front door to cover your butt if they were to say anything in the future. I do think that's fair. Collect everything all at one time and then give them one chance. That makes sense to me. Sticks the cat says, throw them out. We had a self-involved mom move in and she had her semi-senile father watch the kids. A semi-senile father? Okay. He would allow them to go onto the balcony and toss action figures into our garden, breaking and killing some plants and flowers. No apologies and nothing was replaced. At first, I would gently place the action figures on her property, but then just started tossing them out as everyone living there is extremely rude to us. Her boyfriend even blocks our garage in with snow after I shovel it out. They also would toss action figures against our garage for safekeeping? ? And after the younger kids stole our flag and some other things, again, we started tossing them in the trash whenever we found them on our property. Good luck. Independent Bid says, yep, throw it out. People need to stop having kids if they're too lazy to parent or watch them. And then the OP at the bottom says, damn, I'm sorry to hear that your plants were destroyed. That's awful and exhausting. The snow thing is annoying too. And them stealing your flag, thank you. Lewd Awakening says, people underestimate how much work it takes to grow herbs and plants. And then someone's brat throws a toy in there like it's a game. Not cool at all. And then the OP says, yeah, and they know we grow herbs because one of the kids peers into our yard. It's really annoying. Now, Library Mouse says, put some netting over your herb garden using poles. Water and sun gets in, but not the toys. Maybe get a security camera or two in your yard. It's too bad that these parents are not watching their kids, and now this woman has to take all of these precautions because these kids are throwing toys over the wall. But she says, that would be a good idea to get a camera. Netting is also a good idea. Thank you. Library Mouse says, good luck and keep throwing out their stuff. The netting thing worked great for us when my kids were growing strawberries and the birds and critters kept taking bites. And then the OP says, oh my God, we had a few birds pecking at the rocks and dirt and it was weird. I don't know what they were pecking at. And then someone responded to her saying, birds eat bugs and bugs live around or under rocks. The OP says, thanks for answering. 1952A says, cameras on Amazon are dirt cheap. Couch Snacks Cherub says, if the parents cared, this wouldn't be happening. You are not the villain. But obviously, some people must have called her the villain and said all kind of nasty and mean things. I'm not going to continue with the comments because we see where this is going, and we don't need to see anyone beating up on this woman for being upset that kids are throwing things over their wall. But for now, join the conversation and let me know what you would do. Would you put stuff in the box? Would you throw it away? Or would you take it over there, each time they did it and have a conversation with the parent? Go ahead and let me know in the comments.
Your education is not disposable. Your education is not optional. In fact, it is a necessity, especially as a woman, specifically as a Black woman. I don't care how much they try to downplay education. I don't care how much they try to talk against it. I don't care how they try to weaponize education against you. You need your education. I was one of over 300,000 Black women that was laid off. And I had time to think, and it allowed me to put a plan in place and pivot. I now have 2 jobs. I'm currently back in school, and I'm transitioning into the healthcare field. Don't ever think it's too late to pivot. Don't ever think because you've invested so much time in a particular career or you've invested so much time in your education towards that career that you need to stay there. If you need to pivot, pivot. Education is going to always allow you to pivot. It's going to always allow you to adjust. It's going to always allow you to live the life that you need to live. I don't care what anybody says.